This is the Inside Data Center podcast. We talk to the people who power the data center sector to give you insider info on everything happening in DC today. Here's your host, Andy Davis.
Brought to you by Soben, Construction Consultancy Services.
All right, welcome to the Inside Data Center podcast hosted by my good friend Andy Davis. And today I'm co-hosting. My name is Pieter Schaap. We have two amazing guests here today. But before we dive into that, Andy, what's your news of the day?
Big news today. I have to think of some news now. Google announcing 75 billion CapEx for 2025. Broke last night. I think people yesterday were asking me, are we seeing a slowdown, DeepSeek? And then today, Google are announcing $75 billion, 47% year-on-year growth. So I think that answers the question of where we're heading in the future.
The only way is up, as far as I'm concerned. I think that's one of the recurring themes here at Kickstart Amsterdam today, because we're live at an event. The only way is up. We see tremendous growth in the market. And for today's session, we have the CEO session. So we have Bela Waldhouser. Bela, you want to introduce yourself maybe?
Sure. Bela Waldhouser, CEO Telehouse. And by the way, I'm celebrating my 25th anniversary as a managing director in that industry this year.
Congratulations.
Besides that, thank you. Besides that, I'm very active in various associations in Germany, but also on a European level, EODC Policy Group, and I'm one of the board members of Climate Neutral Data Center Pact, because sustainability is something which is really important, and I would like to push as much as possible.
Thank you. Doug, over to you.
Doug Loewe, CEO of Kao Data. Been aboard a little over a year now at Kao Data. Before that, had the privilege and pleasure of being with Interaction and learning my trade. Also spent some time at Macquarie because it's just as important to understand the money side of the business as it is the data center side. I also not so well known on the advisory for the Africa Infrastructure Investment Managers, because it's exciting what we're doing here in Europe, and I continue to take Kao Data to the next level. But it's also helping get the next billion people online in Africa, and the learning between the two continents is something that is very inspiring for me personally.
That's maybe a nice little segue. Doug, your opinion on where do we need to build next? So if you look at the EMEA region, what would be the next country that Kao wants to venture into, where you personally see the growth happening?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be slightly controversial in that respect. Yes, I think you eventually need to be in these different countries because of solving for data sovereignty and, frankly, finding capacity anywhere there's going to be renewable power. But in the short run, what we're finding is, because of the collaborative relationships we have with the hyperscalers and the folks like NVIDIA, who has entrusted us with their supercomputer, My Data Center, what we're finding in the short run is a concept we call new neighborhoods. So even within London or Amsterdam, you're finding that there are some neighborhoods that were before sort of off limits, either because they didn't fit within the traditional availability zone. And now what we're finding is, because of some of the fiber technology advancing with hollow core fiber and things like that, you can now put some of these concentrated computes in East London, or you can be in Harlow, which is our home base, which was not really in the sweet spot, but it's now an excellent location for AI workloads. With that said, there's also secondary cities and markets. We're betting big on Manchester, because it's really time for us to be able to level up in the UK. It just can't be London. It's time to distribute that compute. But there are some great countries, but in the short run, in terms of getting returns and solving for 100 megawatt requirements, we're finding that populating these new neighborhoods is the focus for us at this stage.
So still very much the developed countries, but slightly outside of the traditional availability zones.
Exactly, and there's brownfield opportunities. There's opportunities to take locations that were just no longer fit for purpose. They're relics of World War II, and convert them into functioning locations, helping with employment, just overall uplifting this society in general.
Yeah, and I know that Kao Data, Manchester in particular, is social value is really important, and I think that's part of the industry that outside the industry people don't understand. Actually, what a data center in the region can do for the local community and the social value. And I know you guys have done loads of work with the local community to really bring them into the project.
Yeah, I think it's just as important to have those local relationships with the government. I mean, I met Andy Burnham, and we're Yeah, I say this all the time, but it's so true. It used to be cat videos, right? That were in the data centers. And although that's interesting, when you're actually able to go to a city and say, we're going to help solve for global warming, we're going to model synthetic drug trials, we're going to solve for cancer, that's a much more interesting conversation. And then what you're doing is you're being welcomed into the community versus the traditional approach where sometimes those communities had the pitchfork, very apprehensive about your coming to their market. And I think, we're now solving for society's problems at a exciting level with AI. And so it's frankly fun again, and we're being welcomed by the local communities.
And we are not part of the problem, we are part of the solution. It's very important, and we need to explain that to the politicians.
And do it in a natural way.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Because Bela, before we ask you for your Nirvana project, where it will be, you see that legislation in Germany is driving that as well, to engage local communities, to take care of your waste heat, etc. Your view on that, is the industry being proactive enough, or are we being reactive and being driven by legislation?
Actually, I was at the forefront in Germany 4 or 5 years ago, because I initiated the project. Telehouse is providing the waste heat to neighborhood Westwell. It was renamed to Frankie. We are talking about 1,330 apartments, 3,000 people living there, which was by far the biggest project in Germany at that point in time. Now, obviously, I have a lot of followers, which is good. And we have that obligation to provide waste heat to the community in the energy efficiency law. But I've mentioned earlier that I'm board member of the Climate Neutral Data Center Pact, and I have the honor to head our working group, Circular Energy, together with Lex Course. So we try to do as much as possible to use that, because in order to protect our countries, our climate, we need to make use of that green energy, of that green heat. In Germany, and I'm sure that the same is true for a lot of other countries, we're using 40% of our energy for heating. And waste heat from data centers can help. That's what I want to push for.
Looking at a new project.
Yes.
Taking the role in the community into account, sustainability goals, the data center pact, the climate neutral data center pact. What's your next location? Where do you want to go?
First of all, let me come back to where we are now, because that neighborhood Frankie provides me an energy reuse factor of only 2%, which is nothing. I'm dealing on another project next door, which is an old neighborhood, 100 years old. But ultimately, I would like to connect the Telehouse campus in Frankfurt to the district heating system, because only then I can provide as much heat as possible to the community. Otherwise, taking into account the size of data centers, the heat use nearby is simply too low, too small.
Yep.
So that's where we need to go. We need to connect the data center campuses to district heating systems and make use of it as much as possible.
AI is a bit of a threat there, because the return temperatures are a little bit too low at the moment, right? So you need a bunch of heat pumps to actually get the temperatures up and make it feasible for district heating. So it has to be an integrated push with the chip manufacturers. Well, maybe they can increase return temperatures slightly, so we have a bit of a sustainability prospect there.
But today we've heard a lot about the future AI liquid cooling. And liquid cooled servers will increase the waste temperature from now 30 degrees Celsius plus minus to maybe 50 or more. And this makes our waste heat much more attractive to the district heating systems.
Do you think that when regulation will come in, that basically for new developments, you have to utilise waste heat or give something back to the community in order to get your projects approved in certain areas?
In the first draft of that law in Germany, it was a mandatory obligation to provide 30 to 40% of the energy to be reused as waste heat or whatever, which is simply impossible, because when do we need heat? only in wintertime, which means max 6 months a year in our regions. We have been able, through all the associations and lobbying, to make that achievable. And now we need to offer our waste heat to district heating systems. If they don't take it, then we are out of the obligation in Germany. But this is not what I want. I want to provide the waste heat. Yeah, but you need all the 3 parties involved, maybe even 4 parties involved in that. The real estate owners, they need to accept that. The district heating system suppliers, they need to take it and distribute that. And also the politicians, the community, they need to support us. It's not only the data center industry that's too short-minded.
And I think, and we also heard this morning in Kevin's opening talk around the 5 challenges, and I think supply chain was one of those challenges. And we're seeing it in the UK around like the demand for people, but also some materials is becoming so challenging. Is there a way the industry can become more efficient in order for us to actually build at the scale we need to build at?
You're touching on something I think is somewhat of the elephant in the room is in due course, we're going to have to start to see a consolidation in the number of data center services providers. I think the drawbridge has come down on new entrants because of the fierce
and the
fight for talent.
Capital required as well now.
Capital doesn't seem to be a limiting factor. In fact, there's almost too much capital that has an interest. The long pole in the tent still is available power, but close behind it is actually the war on talent. Because war for talent, because at the end of the day, although I think we're all having some initiatives to bring fresh, engineering talent, it's a long-term play, and we're poaching talent from each other. So really, long-term, the only way to really solve that is to start having, instead of there being hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of data center services providers, is over time to begin a consolidation process. I remember, a hyperscaler saying to me, we have 150 colo providers. We're not looking for a 151st one. And so at the end of the day, you're going to start to see consolidation because it's just not sustainable to have that many players. And so I think we're going to start to see that. Not right away. I think everybody right now, there's opportunities. If you're have a solid business case, you've planted the seeds to be in the front of the queue for power, all it takes is one successful project and you're getting A, great returns, and B, significant revenue growth. But consolidation is on the horizon.
And the collaboration piece then with the supply chain partners, if I look at the big general contractors around EMEA, they were very hungry. They're a little bit more conservative now. You see prices edging up. Is there a drive by the industry to get rid of the transactional relationship? Lump sum deals are in the past. You want to look at open book, guaranteed maximum price to share risk and also maybe share rewards. What's your view on that?
So as we take some of the projects where we've implemented 10 or 20 megawatt projects, now that we're having moving to contract with customers at triple megawatt, it actually reduces the number of construction firms that are genuinely able to do that in certain markets, and not only genuinely able to do it, but able to do it in parallel with other projects. So one of the things I've been putting a huge emphasis on at Kao Data is to say, let me make sure I have people that have those relationships with those contractors that can assemble the gang or the band again and be able to play in tune because they've done it before. And so we've really put an emphasis on, in order to de-risk the supply chain, is making sure we have the people on the team that, frankly, know how to do that in a way that's collaborative and win-win. But it's something that I think the entire industry is doing much better. It used to be us versus them. I really am genuinely seeing, I think it's evident here at Kickstart, is a we approach. And that is, let's work with the community. Let's make sure that the construction firm is, obviously they need to make their fair returns. And the reason you do that is not because you're solving for a really nifty, cool project in Harlow at 100 megawatts, because you want to rinse and repeat and do it again in another marketplace. It's the only way to do that is to build trust through, everybody. It has to be win-win.
I think, Bela, the Telehouse product has been extremely successful over the years. Key was collaboration in your end as well, I presume. A little insight on how you experienced that over the last 10, 15 years?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, on a short term, you can squeeze your customers, you can squeeze your suppliers, you can squeeze everybody. But on a long term, that doesn't work. and that does not work in any industry. And especially we've talked about the lack of resources. You need the talents, and the talents want to work for a company they are proud of. And by the way, I'm really fighting to get the second half of our citizens into our industry. We are sitting here as 4 men. How many women do we have in our industry? We neglect 50% of the potential for our industry, and I think we need to change. We need to offer attractive positions in our industry, which is still very much men-dominated.
I think on the talent piece, which obviously is my day job, I think the industry is becoming more open now because out of necessity, not out of desire, but because it has to be. There's such a demand for people now. You can't just say, I want someone with 5 years data center experience, because there's a limited supply of them. So therefore it opens up to different demographics because you're looking for the attributes rather than the experience. And my advice is always for anyone, like, you're searching for talent, search for the attributes, not the industry experience, because there's great industry people that can teach the industry, but you can't teach attributes in all the time. So it is changing, but I completely agree with your point. And young people as well. So
I have the experience with Germany, with the UK, France, and other countries. And going to France, they offer a kindergarten and school for kids at the very early stage. That means all women who are becoming a mother, they have the chance to go back to work ASAP. Some years ago, it was shortly before COVID-19, I was in Bulgaria and Sofia for a conference. I've never seen so many women, engineers, IT specialists, whatever. So it's not a matter of sex, it's a matter of culture, and we need to change that, especially because we need them.
Your point about bringing in people from adjacent industries, we just hired a head of security that's coming from the pharmaceutical industry. And, the worst thing you can do is have entropy or closed user groups. We have a responsibility to make sure we keep our companies and therefore the industry vibrant. So we've made a major push to hire female talent, to be able to nurture that. We host universities coming over. Last year we had 15 students come to our data center, and I was pleasantly surprised that 14 of them are female. And that's what we have to do, is be proactive. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It is a journey, but we have to be focused on making that change now and building that into our discipline, because the last thing we want to do is time out because of people. We have power problems, but the worst thing we could possibly do is not have that rich tapestry of talent as part of our companies to take us to the next level.
I think in addition to that, sorry, Peter, in addition to that, I have a lot of experience with Gen Z. And old guys like Doug and myself, we are used to go to the office every single day before COVID-19. Gen Z expects as much home office as possible. That's kind of their culture, nature, their expectation. So we need to adopt that as much as possible, as much as our business allows that.
True, although one of my favorite expressions is work from work. I have 3 young nieces, and the bottom line is they're realizing that a pure remote working culture, you don't build the social skills. You're not advancing your overall capability, and you actually run into a problem where you're go into a cul-de-sac for your career. You're right, going into the office every single day, that doesn't make sense, but it's so important to be able to embrace a hybrid work schedule and embrace it.
Fully agree.
Yeah.
The mix changed substantially since our old days.
I think the industry has done a great job in bringing the ecosystem together and giving that work-life balance and allowing the younger generation to enter in a good way that they can also still work from home, go to the office, have the social relationship inside but also outside of the office. One of the missing links, and maybe that will change, the UK data centers are now critical infrastructure. To me, that also means that governments have to take an active role in educating kids, starting at primary school, secondary school, universities. They have to be more focused on digital infrastructure there. We saw it in other industries as well, healthcare, you name it. This has to happen as well. So to me, we're not the only ones that have to be leading. We need other stakeholders as well. And
You're absolutely, the curriculum has to change. I'm in the executive in residence program at University of Chicago, and I'm really pleased that they're now bringing in, as part of the basic curriculum is, AI. And of course, it's still early days, but you gotta thread it. You gotta make that initial investment.
And I was at the UTC on Friday, which I know Kao Data are part of as well. Like the technical colleges in the UK are trying their hardest to change the education system. They don't get the support from the government education system because they're seen as slightly outside the norm. But these colleges are vital to the education system because they're training the skills for this industry and other industries. And I think when people start to realise that education is not a standard route for everybody and you can take different routes to achieve what you want to achieve, I think you'll find that more people come into multiple industries, not just data centres, but STEM is a big problem across the world, and people know that there's opportunities, they won't achieve them. But again, there's a lot of good work going on.
I really hope for a change in education, but I would not rely on
And
it.
I think that's my point there. We know change is needed, but I think change needs to come from outside the standard education system.
Yeah, we have a tendency to put an emphasis with governments to cut red tape to allow us to be able to get power applications approved faster, to allow us to get planning permission faster. But a big part of our community responsibility is to actually engage with those local universities, have our chief technology officers spend time not just with the students, but with actually the professors to help design that curriculum that forms that partnership. Because at the end of the day, one of the things I love about that Microsoft said last year, which is it used to be a know-it-all culture, but that breeds arrogance. The culture that we all need to foster now is a learn-it-all culture, and Satya Nadella is behind that, and I think we need to all embrace that approach. You've got to just continue to learn, because otherwise you can be obsolete, whether you're an old white guy or you're a young up-and-coming engineering professional. You just have to make that investment.
Yeah, and a shout out to Robin Cooder as well, because he's just put $100 million into Sydney University, I think, for STEM, which they announced again last night or today. So those people that are doing very well out of this industry, give something back, help the next generation. It doesn't have to be data centers, but engineering, STEM, they need our help.
That said, maybe because we're running out of time, Andy, we have prepared a little rapid fire session for both CEOs in this CEO session. Maybe you want to start with 10 questions for Doug.
Yeah, and I will say Peter wrote these questions, Doug.
Okay, this should be interesting. All right.
Ready?
I'm ready.
AI or cloud computing?
AI.
Startups or large corporations?
Large corporations.
Data centers in the UK or mainland Europe?
UK.
Mentoring or philanthropy?
Mentoring.
Strategic planning or hands-on management?
Hands-on management.
Tech conferences or board meetings?
Board meetings.
Columbus, Ohio or London, UK?
London, UK.
Computer science or business administration?
Business administration.
Early adopter or cautious implementer?
Early adopter.
And the big question, Kickstart or DCD Connect?
Kickstart. I gotta say it.
Has to be Kickstart.
Anything you want to elaborate on before we go to Bela?
Those are great questions. The thing, there's plodding along and then there's making decisions in speed. For me right now, it's speed, speed, speed. Of course, it needs to be calculated, but it's, as I used to say in New York, make a freaking decision is what I think we all need to be, doing. You concentrate at speed, but make decisions and move the ball forward a little bit every single day.
100%.
Look at the energy, and then you see what we are talking about.
I say about this industry, before we move on to your questions, so there's one thing this industry is, that people are very passionate, and yes, we are creating change, and I think we take it for granted sometimes what we're actually doing for the world, really, but you're right, the passion's here. Let people use that passion.
I hire only people where I see the fire in their eyes.
And the good news is it's fun again. It's genuinely fun again. This AI turbocharged next phase of the industry is creating career opportunities, and it's part of society now. We're not swept under the rug. We're front and center.
Yeah, never a dull moment in data center.
That's for sure.
Bela,
yes,
are you ready?
Yes.
Let's start the clock. Co-location or cloud services?
Both.
Germany or Europe?
Germany first and then Europe.
Innovation or reliability?
For data center business, it's reliability first.
Michelin star restaurant or dine at home?
Oh, I love cooking, dine at home.
Sustainability or scalability?
You can only achieve sustainability through scalability.
Data center design or data center operations?
Data center design is difficult, but operations is the top.
Dancing or mountain biking?
Ha, ha, ha. These are my two hobbies. Both of them, one after the other.
Industry conferences or client meetings?
Client meetings at industry conferences.
Future technologies or current best practices?
Future technologies.
And last but not least, Kickstart Amsterdam or DCW Frankfurt?
No question, Kickstart Europe.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks both. Yeah, really enjoyed that chat. And obviously looking forward to see what you both get up to in 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. Doug Loewe, CEO of Kao Data, and Bela Waldhouser, CEO of Telehouse, and from Andy and myself, see you in the next podcast.
This is the Inside Data Center podcast.
This episode was brought to you by Soben. We are a people business.